Hi everyone, this is Linda, and I was just kind of playing, and this month's newsletter that came out about the software is all about using the fonts and different things you can do with it. And so you want to go, if you're not getting it, go to premier.embroiderynewsletter.net and you can actually get to it. All of the archive of the older letters are there. These have some really great information, and this is available to everybody. Now, the other thing is every month they also have inspiration, which kind of gives you some other ideas. Look at that, morphing with letters. That's just so much fun. So we're actually going to go, and I'm going to do one little simple thing, and we're going to use the Quilt Block Wizard, and we're going to do a couple of other things here. So we're going to go back here, and this is what we're going to create. So I'm going to get rid of everything on here. So select all, and I'm going to delete it all. And I don't have a grid, so I'm going to add the grid back in. So I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to show my grid, so it's actually back in there again. And I'm going to go to the Letter tab. And the font I'm going to use is Ovation 30 to 60. Now you can use anything else you want. This is just happens to be one that I want to kind of mess with a little bit. We're going to hit apply. And so I have Happy Birthday. Now remember, when you have the green corners, you can actually mess with this and make this a little bit bigger and a little bit larger. But I'm not happy with this. One of the things they talk about in the newsletter is actually changing some additional information. So I'm going to actually do a right mouse, and you can go to handles, but you can also go to this little shortcut here and get to handles also. And I'm just going to set this up with an arch. And again, green, I can keep messing with this as much as I want. It kind of creates an arch. Now it's really much more obvious if I make it much more skinny like this. And it's a little bit more obvious that there's a little bit of an arch. And so I'm going to actually make this a little bit wider. Now see this gap? I don't like that gap, and I'm going to fix that. So I'm going to go, and I'm going to do a right mouse, and I'm going to go to Properties. This does not work on all fonts. What happens is, if it happens to be a font that is a script that all your letters are kind of going together, but if you notice the capital H and the APPY has got a gap here. Now because it has that gap, I can actually come in here, and I'm going to put in a -9. Oops. -9 and do OK, and I just fixed that gap. It's really kind of cool. Now if I had chosen a letter that each individual letter is showing separately, for example, did you know that you can right mouse and I can actually change what font I am using? I'm going to go in, I'm going to grab a different font just so that you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go up in here to the children's one. Oops. And I'm going to pick on the faux type just so you can kind of see this. See how your letters are they're individually and there's nothing linking them together, but I can actually take my right mouse button again, hit Properties, and I can actually, instead of a -9, of course it remembered what my last one was, so I'm going to actually set that back to 0, and we're going to see what happens. It spreads it out. Maybe I want it a little bit further apart. I actually want it to be more like 10 apart. And so these are things that you can just keep playing with and doing different things. And I could actually come here to the Properties again, and I could change some different things about it. Maybe it's a curve, and I can start messing with this. I love this feature of being able to do these kinds of things. I'm going to hit undo, and I'm going to go back to my original font because that's the one I want to use. Now I'm going to widen this out just a little bit. I want to leave space at the top and space at the bottom. So that's about 2 grid lines in both directions. And now I'm going to go over to the Super Designs, and I'm going to pick on the little applique birthday cake. Now, depending on the version you have, you may not actually have this. So you would have to do something different. So I'm going to actually go even larger, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to make it kind of fit in here, and like trying to remember I've got a 2 gap on either side, and maybe I want it just tall and skinny just like that. And that's going to be an applique design with some actual embroidery in here. So I want to now take this through the Quilt Block Wizard. So I need to go to the Home tab, or I could do a Control A, which would select all. So I'm going to hit Select All, and then I actually want to cut this from the screen because I want to run it through the wizard. So I'm going to hit Cut. It puts it in my clipboard, and I'm going to go to the Wizards tab. I'm going to go to Quilt Block. I want a filled quilt block inner embroidery, do next, and I want to make this as large as I can to fit the entire thing. So I'm going to go, and I'm using 359, my hoop is 360 wide, and it's 260 tall, and I'm going to make a 259. It gives me kind of a little bit of playroom. So I'm going to hit next, and there's my design. I'm going to hit paste. I'm going to do next. And now I have it here. Now I can sit here and I can mess with this, and I can make this a little bit closer together or further apart. I'm going to go down to a 1 just so you can kind of see what happens. I don't like this, so let's go up just 1, and let's go up another 1. Oops, I don't want to go down. Up. And as I do this, you're going to see some different things happening. And I like it about a 5. 6 might be a little bit better. It kind of things, you want to play with that. So I'm going to hit next. And I don't like the stippling, but maybe if you wanted stippling, you could always change it. This is pretty close together. You could always go to options, and I could actually change this to being a little bit larger instead of it being really close together. So I might make that, let's make that a 10. And because this is a 1.5 stitch length, and because you really are going to, when I do this, I'm going to put a piece of batting underneath here, and I might want to go to a 2.5 just to spread that out just a little bit and see what happens. Now I've still got stippling, but I really don't like that. I want a crosshatch. So we're going to go to crosshatch, and I'm going to make this a 25. Now 100 millimeters is about 4 inches. So 25 millimeters is going to be about an inch. So now I'm going to have that set up so it's about an inch apart. I'm going to do OK, and I kind of like that one. We're going to leave it like that. We're going to hit finish. Now I have my design that's just like this, and it's ready to go, except that I really need to do some basting down and some other things. So I'm going to go to the border tab, and I'm going to make sure that running stitch is chosen, and options, I'm going to make sure 6.0, which is a basting stitch. So this actually is going to be a stitch I want to actually happen before anything else, which will hold everything onto the, hold the fabric onto the stabilizer I use. So I'm going to just make sure nothing is selected, and then making sure you hit the correct apply. It will put it in its place, and it will put it at, oh, don't forget to change the margin to 0. This will put this right out there at the very edge. And now I need that to actually stitch first. So I'm going to go back to the Home tab, and I'm going to go to Layout Order, and I'm going to move to the back. So it's going to actually stitch the very first thing. So if I wanted to make sure it's going to do that, I can always go to the Design Player and watch what happens. So now I have created that basting stitch that's going to create everything here. Now, I want to see what the fabric looks like. I could actually go into View and take a picture of the fabric, or I could do it this way, and I could just do something very simple. So I'm going to go to Applique, and I'm going to Applique Outline, and I'm going to do Freehand Point Applique, and see where the C is at. I could actually go through and click on each of those. I could also do Express Applique, and it says one potential applique, which is okay, and I'm going to just pick on a very light blue, just kind of see, oh, let's pick on this one because it was one I used before. And that's what it's going to look like. So it actually went in and selected and put a piece of fabric there so that I could actually see it. Now if I really wanted to, I could go to File, and I could go to Export Applique Pieces, which is another one of those nice things that you can do with the Premier+2 software. So I now have this. Now I need to actually sew my backing fabric onto here. Now I could take this out of the hoop after it's done sewing and actually instead of doing this all in the hoop, but I'm pretty lazy and I like to do everything in the hoop. So I would actually take this, and with 2 pieces of fabric, like 2 pieces overlapping each other on the top of the fabric with face down, and I'll put a video on the on the Linda Stitchens group page on actually sewing this, putting that together. So basically what it is it's, you sew all this out, then you would lay 2 pieces of fabric overlapping on top, and then sew this next stitch. And I'm going to go back over here to the frame tab, to the border tab, and again I'm going to pick on border stitch, and I'm running stitch, and I don't want it to be a basting stitch now. I actually want it to actually stitch out to a 2.5. I don't want anything selected, and I might want to put this in just a little bit so that it kind of covers up that basting and puts it in just a little bit, and I'm going to hit apply. And I want to make sure that this doesn't stitch out of order, so I'm going to change this color, and I'm just going to pick on it. It doesn't really matter what it is. I'm going to do OK. And so when I sew this out, it's actually going to sew out everything in the order I want. So it's going to, first thing it's going to do is it's going to sew this basting stitch all the way around, and then stop for me to lay that fabric down. It's going to hold everything in place, and then it's going to do my letters, and then it's going to go through each of the other applique pieces that are over here, and then it's going to sew the last stitch down. So I hope you kind of play with the letters and using those really cool things you can do in the letter tab. It really makes your lettering become something very unique. Have fun. Thanks.